Testing, 1, 2, 3. Mic check, 1, 2, 3. Testing, 1, 2, 3. Mic and music check. Test. Thank you for confirming, Atla. Much appreciated. I hope you had an amazing weekend. How are you doing today? Fantastic. Thank you. I had a busy weekend. So, I don't know if you remember I mentioned I was getting an air conditioning unit for the office. Hey, Shy Flames, welcome. Hey, Gauze, how you doing? Welcome back. So, how was everyone's weekend? Did you get any tabletop sessions or prep in? If you did, would love to hear about it. And otherwise, though, welcome back to Mapmaker Monday. And if it's your first time here, today's stream is a focus on building a map live in Dungeon Alchemist. So you can watch, observe from someone who's spent over 3,500 hours building and exploring maps. Additionally, we take community feedback and suggestions towards the build and share tips and tricks with you live. The stream is essentially a whole time, like a long form Q&A, meaning you can, sorry for the scramble brain there, still early for me. If you have any questions that are Dungeon Alchemist related, just let me know in chat by prefacing with the word question and then follow it with your question. And then I will do my best to provide you real-time assistance here on the stream. James, you ran a session on Foundry? Nice. Very cool. How did your players like it? Michael, welcome to the stream. Got some serious support today on YouTube. Fantastic. So the map we're working on is right here. We call it so far the Last Drop, Souvenir, and General Store. Though there will be like a tavern and inn in it at some point too. The bottom level here is some stables, which we got a variety of different shaped stables, and then like a little, like a booth there for someone to take payment, right, for check-in and check-out. And then we have some animals stabled at the moment, and then some free stables. So your animals can get a good night's rest, water, and food. Anyway. Then we have upstairs, which, by the way, this place looks very ramshackle, kind of just cobbled together because it's used out of it was made out of whatever wood was available. The reason they built here is because it's by this massive, well, the only water hole for like hundreds of miles in any direction. So people have to stop here constantly for water. So I think we're going to go with a kobold, a very, let's just say opportunistic for Kobold, set up shop here, and started making the building out of whatever he could find, and started, you know, adding on as he went. Oh, looks like we got some questions coming in. Awesome, awesome. Hey, Dyson, you're editing a book? What? Hold on, you got to tell me at least a little bit about that. You piqued my curiosity. Can't wait to swipe it. Gaz, I will upload it to the workshop once it's finished, so for sure you'll be able to snooch it, if you will. Question from James Stoffel on YouTube. Can DA maps be exported for VTT with walls for proper fog use? Yes, but it depends on the virtual tabletop. So we offer direct exports for numerous virtual tabletops that include walls, windows, doors, lighting, etc. So it automatically populates that information, so you have fog of war provided for that data. The virtual tabletops we support direct exports for are Foundry, Fantasy Grounds, Roll20, Above VTT, and any virtual tabletop that utilizes the UVTT format or Universal VTT format. A number of platforms use that. Arc and Forge, for instance, is a big one. Let's see, the format was developed by the developer for Dungeon Draft, Wonder Draft. They wanted to make a format that was universal to many virtual tabletops. Harpy VTT, Encounter Plus, Above VTT. So a lot of them utilize that format. So I'd say like dozens, if not up to hundreds now. Editing is your third job. Here's the plug for the author, Robert C. Lehman, Bathed in Ink and Blood. It's a fantasy with a Western steampunk vibe. Very cool magic system. Interesting. So you're editing a book that's like a gameplay system? Okay. So taking a look at our general story, this is what we've got so far. It's got some, like, you know, kind of goods that'll last a while, just, you know, dry goods or like goods that are shelf stable for a long while. And then, of course, right next to it, you've got clothing and shoes and house goods, and then weapons and armor. We've been slowly just filling up sections, but I wanted them to be like crisscrossed in the most random way possible. Like stuff that just doesn't make sense sometimes. Hey, Zaganza, welcome back. That's really cool, though, Dyson. That's fantastic. I never knew that about you. Learn something new every day about your community. So I put up air conditioner in my office, and it feels so good in here right now. I feel like a whole new community manager. Honestly, like, it usually gets really hot in here during a stream, and during the summer it gets unbearable because I have 2 computers, a bunch of screens, lights. It just adds up really quick, the heat, you know, the therms, even with central air conditioning. So I got a special air conditioner that I have a window over behind my green screen, and it's like it's a horizontal sliding window, which means the window panes, you know, one pane slides behind the other to open it up instead of it going up and down like most traditional windows. So you can't use a standard like window air conditioner. It's not really safe, and it requires mounting hardware, which I cannot do in my home because I rent. So they wouldn't allow me to mount it to the face of the building outside. So essentially I had to find something that could mount, and I couldn't drill any holes or, you know, mount any hardware. So I couldn't use a mini split. I couldn't use a window unit with like a shelf bracket on the outside. I found these new air conditioners called U-shaped air conditioners. They're kind of a newer style. I guess they're more popular in European markets. Not as popular here in the US yet. But I was able to expense one of those. Thank you. to the Dungeon Alchemist devs, and I got it all installed in my window, but there was one kind of catch to this whole process. U-shaped air conditioner. The catch was they when you put them in a horizontal window, you still need to, fill the space above that's no longer able to be closed, right? So I had to get a little clever. Stand by, I'll pull up some pictures. So this is the air conditioner. And notice instead of in the window, it's mounted over the window's kind of sill. And then all of the major hardware is like outside. This side here is only like 10 inches deep. This right here. So I cut out a piece of wood and I mounted handles on it. The wood is triple coated in like a mold and mildew proof primer and a external coat that is also water and like mold and mildew resistant. It's been up about 12 hours so far, so I'll let you know after a few days. When I was installing it, I ran into one issue and it was really hard to get the thing in the window. So I ended up remembering, hey, I can take the blinds off. Hey, I can pull the window panel out because you can like lift it and pull it out. So I pulled it out and then I was able to slide this in and then put the window back and the blinds back. It made it really easy. Anyway, so yeah, now I'm like living very cool in here. It's like super cool in here for once. Anyway, I'm excited to like actually stream more this summer because I won't like die. So back to building this, I'm trying to put, all sorts of random stuff in here. So we've got, because it's like the only shop for hundreds of miles, the guy just tries to fill it up with whatever. We've got, here's some mining equipment. We're going to put some household goods. We've got, survival gear and like camping equipment. Been kind of filling stuff up in here, some backpacks and bed rolls, and I was just kind of filling it up with whatever I could find. I also put a tent up here that's supposed to be like a display, but what I think I'm gonna do is shrink it down, right? And then put it in here like that. So I could have like little mini displays in here of things that are for sale in the store. My computers and screens and my brain will be very happy about this change. It'll be a nice summer here for sure. It's already amazing and I'm barely pushing it at all. I live in Vegas, so it's rather warm during the summer. Okay, just to give you an idea, last year was one of the hottest on record for Vegas, one of the top 5 hottest years ever since they started recording temperatures here. There were 75 days over 100 degrees. That's 38 degrees Celsius roughly for our friends across the pond. And then there were several days over 110 degrees. That's 43 degrees Celsius. And it just gets so hot that even the central air can't keep up sometimes with all of the hardware. So yeah, with, with this window air conditioner unit, the U-shaped unit, I think I will be a little better off. I feel like, at least hoping. So what other things should I put in this little display? Yeah, it gets really hot in Vegas. I don't know why anybody like decided to build a city here. And then I moved here because initially I like found a lot of work here, business, as a small business consultant. But then when COVID hit, I lost almost all of my business. My business basically went bankrupt. So like I ended up pivoting, you know, and going into a different career. Do you hear it? Do you hear the AC? I guess that's the real question. I kind of hear it through my headphones, but it's like 10 feet away from me. But it has settings to run really quiet and eco-friendly. In fact, it recycles all the moisture that it like evaporates off and uses it to help cool it. It's like a really nice new unit with like a lot of neat features. But there's like a mode that's like silent and like a high and like extra cool mode. The only thing it isn't like it doesn't have a heat pump in it, so it doesn't do heat. But I don't really need heat. Like that's not a problem here. So not too worried about it. Hey, Dyson, once it's up on the workshop, you use it however you want. So I need suggestions for things I should put in here that are just like items that are on display. So I grew up in southern Utah, like 40 minutes away from like 5 different like national and state parks. And the climate there for most of the year was rather hot. So I more often than not would, you know, I grew up in a climate that was like insanely hot, right? A cat, you know what? I like that. Do I have a cat downloaded right now? Probably not. I also kind of want to put items that are like big things that we have a shrunken version of, right? So it's like, this is what the tent looks like when you're at the store and they have the mini tents. Ooh, a wagon. Let's put a wagon here. Because he might like, oh, have a wagon kit in a crate. A wagon in a crate or something like that you can build. Like one of these. Ooh. Listen, if Jeep can fit an entire Jeep in a crate, I think a wagon can go in a crate. A jar with a bug or a spider. Ooh, interesting. Maybe do that. Bring this down a little bit more and I'll turn it like this. Whoop. No, but this is a display unit. It's a miniature version so people get the gist of it without having the full one out, right? Have y'all ever been to a store where they have like a miniature tent on display? Like a Target is a great example, or Walmart. They'll have like tents for sale, but they have little mini versions of it available on display. So growing up in southern Utah, where it was primarily like a desert climate, I am so used to heat. I don't really notice it. Saddle. Ooh. We only have it like on the trestle. Wish we just had like a saddle, like a regular one by itself. Like just this without it on the trestle, so you could like put it on the wall or whatever. But this is okay for the display. I think I'm going to move the armor over here, so it's closer to where the armor is. And I'm going to move this wagon here, because it's a cooler item. Or let's put the tent further out. Put the wagon back, we'll put the tent. And I'm probably going to add abstract lights into all these, just to kind of make the displays pop. Well, okay. Do you have a large, like, kind of a store that's like has a little bit of everything, right? I know a lot of countries have different stores that have like, you know, maybe a grocery store mixed with like, oh, this store also maybe sells electronics and home goods and all sorts of stuff. If not, you know, I just assumed that was kind of a universal standard across most nations. Is that what they would call it, Moose? An emporium? Here. Look, they even sell them on Amazon because people were like, hey, I'd buy one of those for my animal, my pet. So they sell them for like cats. But these are like mini tent, 1/12 design. They exist. In some sports shops, they do have a lot of tents up, but they can't physically put up every tent, right? So they'll also usually have like a shelf with some tilted mini tents. Yeah, I guess Walmart is hard to really like grasp if you're from other countries sometimes. Because it's like a grocery store, a pharmacy, a optometrist. There's several shops that are like a Subway sandwich shop, or maybe even a McDonald's sometimes also built in. And then you have a bakery and, you know, meats and like all the like loaded grocery, like a whole grocery store. But then you have like home goods, like maybe you have cleaning supplies and diapers and clothing. There's entire sections dedicated to clothing. They have an electronics section where you can buy like games, consoles, controllers, TVs. You can just walk in and buy an 80-inch TV in a Walmart. They'll have auto supplies, camping supplies. You can buy a bicycle, toys. What else do they have in Walmart? Oh, they usually have a section dedicated to holiday decor. So like every part of the year, it's just filled with stuff. And then they usually have also an area that's like attached outside that's full of like plants. So like a nursery. Tires. Yes, they have tires and batteries for cars. They have, I mean, you could go buy furniture. They'll have like beds that are like in boxes that you can buy and go assemble. Pillows, like anything. Like I've went there in the middle of the night and bought paint and plumbing parts. It's like got a little bit of everything. That's why Walmart is such a heavy contender in the United States, because like they have everything. For the most part, a little bit of everything. I don't know what to compare that to in Europe, mainly because I've just like never been there. And so I'm sorry if I'm like a little. Cool. Is that something a lot of people here can relate to, is the real question. Malls in the US are largely dying because of stores like Walmart and Amazon too. I'd say Amazon is a big contender for, you know, the death of like the American mall. If I had to pick one, you know, one or two things, it would be things like eBay and Amazon, and then of course Walmart. That said, malls usually have stores with like a lot better like clothing, or a lot better like specific options, right? If you go to like a gaming store in the mall, it probably has way better gaming options than just the game aisle at Walmart. They usually only have like the popular games, like the board games, and maybe a couple Magic packs and Pokemon packs. Not like everything you could buy. Nowadays, they probably have D&D and stuff, but I don't know. Hmm. Let's put some pottery in here. Micro Center's pretty cool. There used to be a really similar store called Fry's until it went out of business. Very cool store as well. Hey, Kaihira, how you doing? Welcome back. So let's see here. I'm gonna just fill this up with like random pottery. I think I'm gonna put another one of those pots on this side so it pops out a little bit there. Probably should duplicate it, huh? That's the right size I want. Back there. Whoop. So those are just kind of popping in. How was your weekend? What were you up to? Did you get any gameplay in or session prep? Let's hear about it. Like, oh, Walmart has like a section dedicated to crafts. So you can just like, you know, go there and buy a bunch of fabric or sewing equipment or whatever. Like, it's nuts, all the stuff they carry in the store. It's, yeah. Help me think of things to put on these shelves. I guess more pots and pans. An elf on the shelf. So we do have some magic stuff over here, right? Which, you know, are full of all innocuous types of stuff. There's jars of eyeballs. There's some kind of hideous beak creature in a jar. Jar full of teeth. A dragon's egg. Some kind of Necronomicon. You know. Who knows what this cloak can do. Got all sorts of, like, curiosities in these various things. I was going to fill the shelves with other stuff, too. Random magic items. The way I look at it, though, books and like paper are very like rare and expensive items in like D&D. Like things like ink cost 10 GP, right? So it's reasonable to think that like stuff like this would probably be stored somewhere where it's like not necessarily out of sight. Oops. Yep, so these could be poisons, potions, you know, anything, really. I'm going to bring that down one height and put a couple, like, other bottles on the top. Oh, nice. Very cool, Anani. Hey, John. I've been kind of scoping out your videos you've been posting lately. Kind of watch them for a little bit while I'm working. Is it Savage Worlds that you use for gameplay? Ultra Joe? Glad to hear it. Glad to hear it. When will it be possible to turn objects sideways, like a fallen tree, for example? Our roadmap shows that our Fun with Objects Part 2 update should launch before the end of the summer. You know, that's subject to change, but likely before the end of the summer. And when it comes, that will include object rotation on any axis. We've actually already demonstrated this to a great degree in our Discord and social media and stuff, and even here on stream. Let me see if I can find a clip of it really quick to show you. Very soon, though, you will be able to rotate objects on any axis. So here's like a quick demo of that. That's very cool. So you sell, like you write and sell like modules and whatnot for Savage Worlds. I recently learned of another game, like a tabletop campaign game, or like a tabletop RPG, I should say. Does anyone here play, is it Cosmere? Cosmere? Well, that's really cool, John. Very cool. So, and this is like an early prototype. So, I mean, honestly, like the devs have been fine tuning it and stuff. Additionally, they're working on things like object mirroring. Also, hey, good news for all. A small patch will be releasing very soon titled the Fine Print Patch, hopefully within the next week or so. And that patch will include a whole bunch of hot fixes for bugs that have been reported and discovered since Fun with Objects launched, including the roofing bug where the roofing just becomes like a spine of shingles or like a cross mesh spider web. So that there's a bunch of fixes coming for that. And a bunch of other things are being fixed, including like room generation, destroying objects, in rooms adjacent or, above and below. Little things like that are being patched. I don't know about the pipe offset. I haven't seen the full list of features. I'll ask if that's being fixed or not. But it's been reported numerous times. They know about it. That being said, it may, if it isn't in this, it'll likely be patched at a future date. Oh, I didn't know that. So it's designed around Brandon Sanderson's stuff, huh? Isn't he like just like a really popular writer at the moment? Like I swear I see his name everywhere. Need a couple other items to put on display here. He doesn't have any furniture, so we can't do that. Oh yeah, let's get a cat. Forgot about that. Awesome. Eric, hope you have a wonderful day, my friend. Oops. Trying to decide which cat to use. I kind of like this orange that's just chunky. That being said, I do have my own cat model I can use. I don't know why it didn't show up because I do have one. There, let me save. So we can put Millard there. King Meme. What I need to do is make him a little bed. Too bad this is... Oh, that one. There we go. Hey. It doesn't seem to change any color. Good to know. Let's change the color before we resize it. Nope. Okay, completely bugged. You did? Okay, good to know. If it's been reported, then it's likely on the to-do list. Who knows? Maybe it'll be patched in the next patch. This cat's like a bodega cat. It's just a feature in the store. It lays. This is one of its many beds. Let's just do one more tent that's kind of not as good, right? Because we've got all sorts of different ones. We could put like one of these or like that one. Or one of these. I like that option. Let's do one of these tournament tents. Ultra Joe, thank you for the kind words. Glad to hear it. Glad to hear it. Hey, see you later, James. Eric, I'm excited for Sunday's session, man. Next, I'm gonna add some lights into these areas. This, but I'm gonna lower it. I'm gonna just kind of dampen it so it lights in that area specifically, but oh, once it's in there, it is in there. Let me try one of the spotlights instead. It might actually work a little bit better. Nope, because it casts on the exterior. I wish abstracts could be resized, but I understand why they don't want them resized. They're just so in the way, you know? Hey, 17th century C. This is called Dungeon Alchemist. It's a map making tool and immersion utility. I'm actually the community manager for Dungeon Alchemist. This is our official channel. My name is Mac. It's nice to meet you. Welcome. So we're kind of showcasing how you can use the tool to build maps that are very customized, certainly bespoke, if you will. It's designed to allow you to build maps primarily for games like Dungeons and Dragons, Pathfinder, as we were discussing earlier, Savage Worlds, Kashmir, Daggerheart, etc. A bunch of different systems. Pretty much any game that is set in a fantasy setting. Also leaning into some steampunk, and even some like Victorian or Western. So you build maps and then you can export them to your platform of choice. So you can print the map, or you can export it to our partner Kraken Games, who prints it on a mat and ships it back, or you can export it for virtual tabletops or even digital surfaces like a TV tabletop or a projector tabletop. You're playing Death House? Interesting. Cool, cool. John Doom, I do have a question. Let's hear it. Let's see here. I want to export something. It's 2 stories tall. It exports it as 2 separate maps as opposed to one map that I can use levels on. Nope, that's exactly how it's intended. So we wanted our levels to be, our multi-level exports to be as universal with as many systems as possible. Okay, John? So, and by that I mean as many virtual tabletops as possible. So pretty much every virtual tabletop uses uses scenes, some variety of it, but not every one of them has a module that supports levels like layers, or of a cake or of an image. So it's not necessarily a feature that was stock when we launched multi-level in July last year. There really wasn't a virtual tabletop that had it as a stock feature, only as like an add-on, a third-party feature, which we never developed support for, only offering as much universal support for as many virtual tabletops as possible. Now, that being said, there is a lot of discussion about offering like transparent exports. What that would mean is the first level would be like the ground floor level of your map, whatever that happens to be, and then the exterior, i.e. the ground, the land. And then obviously the blue part here is the land. Now, that's a really deep joke. I hope someone gets it. That being said, we hope at some point to offer exports that every level above, the first floor or floor 0, if you're across the pond, would be transparent. So you wouldn't see all this terrain. It would just be like a transparent PNG around this image, right? Or ideally a WebP, because PNG is just too bloated. If you have a map that's say 100 by 100 and you export a 300 DPI image with PNG, the image would be like 400 megabytes or higher. They get really insanely large the larger the map is. Really inefficient format for this purpose. Great for making simple tiles, not great for whole size maps. So WebP is probably the way to go, but WebP isn't directly supported by Unity, so we'd have to build and develop some kind of converter that kind of hobbles together 2 systems, so to speak, so we could convert an image and remove all of this stuff into a WebP. Now, that being said, that is being discussed internally, and some community members have made some scripts and stuff that kind of does it. We also offer the green screen biome, so you can just, once you finish your map, file save as, so you have a second version of it, and then change the biome to the green screen biome. Once you've done that, pretty much it deletes the terrain, right? Here, let me save this map a couple of times before we do this, just to give you an example. So when you change terrain to a green screen background, it deletes all the terrain and just leaves the building, right? There's a few objects that you'll probably have to go delete because they were a little bit above the terrain, so they're counted as not on the terrain. Anyway, at this point, you could export every level like this, and you have the green backdrop, which you can take into like Photoshop or GIMP or any photo editor and remove rather easily, or video editor for that matter. So you can remove that and then set those as transparent levels if you want to. Just make sure you don't trim down the canvas size, because it needs to be the exact size of the map on the base level, which would be the one with terrain from your master map. It's a little bit of work right now, but this is kind of a new feature in virtual tabletops as a whole. Foundry only just added this feature as a stock feature. So it'll be a bit of time before we add something maybe to compensate. I've been begging the devs. There's a high amount of requests for it on our feature-based, suggestion and roadmap board or whatever. That being said, I'm all for it, and I hope we get it at some point. Yeah, I was turning into the Hulk there. Was there any questions I might have missed? I wanted to make sure I got all the questions so far before I get back to building. I mean, the other thing is, yeah, transparency won't necessarily solve all the problems with depth, you know? It'll solve some, but I don't think it'll solve all of them. Yes, it is to the first episode of Arrested Development. Because Buster took like 3 years of 18th century cartography classes in college because his mom just wanted him out of the house because he's like a failure to launch son who is like in his 30s living in the home. But he's perfectly capable of like taking care of himself. Yeah, that show's so funny. One of the better shows I've seen in the last 20 years or so. I kind of want to keep explosives behind the counter here somewhere where it's like, not necessarily easily accessible, but I wanted to put a shelf here. We were talking about extending this room to like a special goods room that's like, hey, special access only. So like explosives and maybe some like, I don't know, some treasury type stuff that's like fancy. But then I don't really want to add to this. Oh, nice, Magic. How do you like Tailspire? I hear pretty good things, but also I haven't really played with it myself, so I don't really have firsthand experience, For now, we have given you tools to make it easier to fix in post, for sure. The green screen biome was something I personally begged for as the community manager. For several reasons, because it solves a bunch of problems. That's one of them. Kind of solves that issue. It also helps you make tiles, so you can actually use the transparent biome and like set an object that's like animated, and then export the video, and then run that through a video editor, and then make a tile of it. I've done it to make a tile of the animated drill and some of the windmill, like the windmill, and a couple other objects. So, Tailspire, one neat advantage about them that I've heard is it's, you can play and make maps in the same system, right? So it's like a full 3D virtual tabletop, which I think a lot of people are interested in nowadays, for sure. Dungeon Alchemist is a map-making tool foremost and an immersion utility second. It's not a gameplay tool. It's not really intended to facilitate gameplay. There's no dice rolling or inventory management or rules or, stat blocks or anything like that. It's strictly a map-making tool with like cameras and abilities to record at different angles. So you could give those to your players as like handouts, or, chase scenes, cut scenes, flyovers, etc. Plus your traditional, top-down exports in either a flattened or a 3D perspective, which is truly unique to Dungeon Alchemist's kind of aesthetic. Magic, I like I said, I've heard pretty good things about Tailspire. I think the biggest difference between us and them, I think I hear a lot of people say Dungeon Alchemist is easier to use. But then if you're expecting a full 3D experience on export, it wouldn't be the same. It's not like Tailspire in that regard. So you would export your maps kind of in a traditional top-down, or you could gather shots at various angles using like our drone camera, the cinematic camera is what we call it, or you can drop a token in the map, right? And then get different shots from that perspective, which is very fun as well. Oh, this bug is being fixed in the patch coming up next week, where like floors and trim from other levels leak through. Yeah, that is a huge difference. Like you can generate entire rooms and environments with Dungeon Alchemist in moments, like a couple of clicks. Honestly, though, it just depends on how you play. Like, how do you play online with your party, or do you play in person on like a TV tabletop or a projector tabletop? Yeah, what Jack said is also something a lot of people in our community will do. They stream this perspective to their players, right? The first person perspective. So their players can always see kind of what they would see through their own eyes, which is fun for sure. Yeah. By the way, thank you for the follow, Magic. Welcome to the Dam fam, as we like to call it. Dungeon Alchemist, when you save a map in Dungeon Alchemist, it saves as our proprietary file format called a .dam, or Dungeon Alchemist map. So we lean into that a little bit and have fun with it. We have the Dam fam, or we have different factions within our community, the Dam fam, the Damily, and the Damnation. And then we also used to say quite a bit in our Discord, when people would share pictures of a map but wouldn't share the map, we'd be like, come on, man, give a damn. Anyway, we have fun with it. Anyway, welcome to our community. And if you have any other questions, concerns, this stream is hosted AMA format, which means ask me anything. As long as it's Dungeon Alchemist related, I'm here to support you. Oh, nice. So we have similar support. So people have created, thousands of maps. Well, I guess you could call those slabs, technically. There's over 13,900 maps and counting that are pre-made and shared already. So you can just download and go and just use it for your campaign needs. Additionally, we have over 13,700 3D models that have been shared by our community. So this expands our asset collection by like almost triple. There's like 7,000 stock assets in Dungeon Alchemist, but then this like essentially triples it. So tons of different things that we may not offer currently, or other aesthetics entirely, like sci-fi and modern and post-apocalyptic. Here's a car, cyberpunk car, or I guess that might be Kit. It is pretty cool. The community-driven support for Dungeon Alchemist is amazing. We have the best community in the world. Tons of people making assets and sharing them constantly. Maps as well. Hey, Rev, missed you around here, bud. Hope you're well. By the way, if you want to check us out, we offer a free demo on Steam, so you can kind of try it out, see what it's like. Keep in mind, it's like a small slice of the overall pie. It's only one of our, 12 biomes, one room type out of like dozens, and like a limited palette of objects and functionality. But it's still fun nonetheless. Thank you for dropping that link for the demo, Atlam. Dude, I feel you, Rev. I feel you. But I'm glad you're staying busy and, hopefully making money, my man. Okay, so we filled up kind of the armor section. I guess I could just put more of the same on the bottom shelf. Right. Maybe we should put just the chest pieces down here. I'm going to finish this section for good today. I wish we could rotate objects more so I could put some of the boots like laying on the ground sideways. But I'm going to put more like gauntlets on this row. And like a pauldron shoulder piece. Guess I could move these gauntlets down here. Shoulder pieces. Okay, armor is looking good. Let's just do one more set of boots, and we're gonna shrink it down so it's like next to it but under the shelf. We gotta have boots for like, arflings and the short folk, the short kin, Oh, you know what I could put there? No, the shield's got to be like over here on this side. We'll put like more shields on the top. And we'll just start putting like camping equipment and other things here. I think I'm going to move this pipe over to home goods. It's like all sorts of random stuff here that I was considering putting on this shelf. Some tent pegs here. Animal traps. I wish we had an assortment of traps, but I do know we have at least a couple. like this bear trap. So I could put that on one of them. That's a good idea, actually. I also need to fill out this section over here, which will be like souvenirs. So this place also sells souvenirs because it's called The Last Drop. So this is like one of their things. I went to The Last Drop and all I got was this shirt. I'm also going to put a sign out here by the watering hole and a little stand that says water. Here, what did it say? It's like 1 silver per gallon or something. That's from the workshop. My man Sack actually helped me out with that. He uploaded it for me at my request. I incorporate a few workshop assets if I need. But I'm going to put a sign over here, right? Here, something like this. And then in the image here, I have water, 1 silver per gallon. I might not use this sign though, because it's hard to read. So I might put something else on it. I don't know. I'll figure it out. Something like this, and then put an abstract on it. Because then I could use, say, this one. And then insert the image into it. Rotate it. I love it. This is just the kind of stuff, though. He's going to be really opportunistic and trying to get your money in any chance he can. Mrs. Mac helped me with these. We found a fun font, and then she made the water drop asset for me, and then put together all the random like graphics for it. But something like this is what I'm thinking. And then I was going to have like a dock and maybe like an arm that can go down and grab like bags of water, like a crane arm. Because we have this, there's another crane. Where is it? It's a desert asset. Goodness, I can't remember what it's called. It's like this, but it's like more primitive. Ah, that. Shadoof. Something like this. We'll set it up. We're going to set up this whole area eventually. But this will be something here to help get water. Oh, yeah, those barber chairs were rather nice. That was really cool of him. Sack's really, you know, like, just such a helpful community member. Not only that, he's just so passionate about Dungeon Alchemist. It's so crazy because he almost didn't, like, want to join our Discord. Like, he kind of doesn't care for the platform as a whole, right? And he was considering not joining. And I, like, just told him how wholesome our community was, because I met him on Reddit. He posted a magnificent mansion map. I guess he had gotten a commission for a map, and then the guy disappeared. So rather than the commission go to waste, he shared it on Reddit. So that's how I found Sack. And, you know, we started chatting a little bit on Reddit, and I was like, hey, are you in our Discord? And he ended up joining our Discord after we chatted a little bit. And I'm so glad he did, because otherwise it would have been a bummer to just like only see his works once in a while, or maybe he may not have ever gotten in as involved as our community as he is now. Who knows? Don't like to speculate, but it's crazy to think. Whoa. What the? What in the heck just happened? I love that it's square, but I'm like, what is going on? This isn't a modded version of DA. I'm not sure what's happening. That is a new one for me. I don't know how I did it. Don't ask me. It's a bug, guys. I'm kind of bummed because I can't do any terrain manipulation now. Like, what? I might want to close the map and come back. Yeah, but now I can't do any manipulation on this map. I was going to have a road go through here, and I can't now. I guess it's going to be like a path. I was going to clear areas out for camps. I guess I'll have to get creative. Yeah, I was thinking of reloading DA, but I think we should document this before we... Well, I guess we have the stream. We can clip it. That's insane. It's ruined. I gotta back out now. It wouldn't undo beyond that point. I just don't want my autosave to overwrite it, because my autosave set to 1 minute, so that's why I was being kind of dramatic there. Sorry. Gosh, I just breathed in a cat fur. I need to go through and deep vacuum my room now that I have that air conditioner blowing air. It's like all over. Need to get behind all the shelves, pull everything out. Just do my best to clean that up. Oh, thank goodness. It's saved. That was something else. Toby Maguire meme. Sadly, it doesn't have all my work that I just did here because I didn't save before I went out, but it's okay. We'll get it done in like a few minutes. I always tend to find the best bugs, but now they won't be able to replicate that. I'll show them video and I'll be like, I unfortunately didn't want this permanently on the map, so I backed out and it's lost. Obviously, there's some way to do a flattened square brush. Like, clearly, that is possible somehow. How did I make that happen? Morinor? Is that how it's pronounced? I want to make sure I say your name correctly. Morinor? Morinor? Welcome. Welcome to the community, and thank you for following earlier, by the way. I noticed you followed before the stream started. I'm trying to make surrounding walls castle style without having to make rooms of it. Is there a tip for this? Or waiting for, you know what? There's a couple ways to approach castle walls, but honestly, my favorite is when you use the room tool, and it's actually the fastest. Let me show you momentarily. Let me just add one thing before I forget here. Put a couple of bear traps up on this top shelf. And move this pipe over here. We'll get to that later. At least I have a trap here to remind me, right? Okay. We're going to save this map, and then we're going to open a new map to show you. I'm going to save twice, because, you know, let's do it 3 times. I don't like to jinx myself. We're going to go to a new map, and we're going to go to the forest, just to demonstrate this. Yes, with a flat top walk on it. I will show you. Trust me. You're not the first person whose mind I've blown by showing them castle walls made easy. You won't be the last. Anyway, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab the room tool. And you can grab any room type you want. It doesn't matter, but the castle room type tends to have rooms with like stone walls, so that gives you a jump start. If you click the settings tab over here, you can tell the rooms to generate without objects. You can tell the rooms to generate without windows and doors. So it'll generate the room without those things. I'm going to keep walls and floors though, because that's important. Trust the process, my friend. Okay, so I'll just use hallway. And what I'm going to do is on floor 1, I'm going to make this. How wide do you want the walls? 10 feet, 5 feet, 15 feet? Usually castle walls are rather thick, right? Defensible, perennialated. Five to 10. Let's do 10 feet, just for the sake of it, for the hank of it. And I'm gonna just make like a wall structure, right? That would be surrounding like a small, you know, like a fort or a keep. Nothing too fancy, but I'm just giving you the basic idea here. So now I've connected this structure. When I generate it, of course, it'll be an empty hallway. But remember, we're playing a game of imagination with our players, right? Didn't I not tell you to generate without windows? The heck just happened? That must be a bug. It's okay. I'll report that later. Let's try entrance. They definitely told it not to generate with windows. Nice and clean. Okay, no doors, no windows. Now, watch what happens when we go up just a level, okay? Of course, you have a wall, like you have a roof on it. That's really not ideal. You wanted a flat option, right? So there's two ways to approach this, okay? We have flat roofs. Some are even crenulated and like defensible. So there is like a 10-foot thick wall that you have around your keep, which you can design in the middle. You're done. No one needs to know there's anything inside of this, right? At all. Your players never need to know that's there. And if you don't want them to know at all, like later on, let's say you export this level, right? What just happened? Okay, let's just erase the roof. Say you see in here, right? And you're like worried about your players seeing in here. There's ways to hide this stuff. So we offer some stone blocks, stone platforms. This is like the #1 way people fill in these. They'll just grab these, disable collisions, and just kind of fill it in. It does take a minute if you insist upon this being there. Remember, though, if you're using systems with like Fog of War, like a virtual tabletop, your players will never see this exists at all. So, moving on from that, let me show you how to breach this wall. Yeah, I think I'm running like a buggy build, which is weird because there wasn't an update. I might need to run and verify my integrity of my files because sometimes that, fixes things. So what I'm going to do is make just another room within this that is, let's do that large, right? And then this just makes a separate room. The reason I'm doing that seals this off for anyone ever finding this. And I can go into doors. We can go to like a large door. We have some XL doors, right? Let's throw like this one on. Or you get the idea. Big old city gates, right? Now, clearly this roof isn't wanted, right? We're going to erase it. And then we're going to just keep going up to make this taller. If you go up to the next level, draw a whole other floor. I'm going to just raise this up to like a super wall, okay? We're just going to keep going up. The insides of these, again, do not matter. And if I need to, I can just put a wall there like we did before, right? The stone wall tool, great tool in this case. I'm just going to grab any old wall just to seal this off, okay? And then we can, it looks like it generated some floor here where I don't want it. So I'm going to just remove this. So that's all gated, right? One solid piece. Check this out now. This is a really tall, really thick wall. We're going to erase this roof yet again. Now, there's two approaches to this. We can put a flat roof on it, call it a day, right? These, though, I don't know. They don't react the same way as floors, so objects are a little bit more difficult to put on them, okay? So what I like to do, this is my personal flavor, I like to just generate one more room, but without walls, okay? At this level, okay? So now it'll generate just a floor. So now I just have like a flat roof. We can change this to any old floor I want. I can choose any stone floor. So this gives you a lot more options than the roof available. So you can pick from the hundreds of stone and tile flooring, pick whichever one you want that matches your vibe, right? I'm just going to do this one really quick. And then we can go into walls. We have these half walls, roof borders that are crenulated, okay? So you have more options to choose from. So this is why I just decide to do a room at this level instead of just do the flat roof. So let's pick, I like this one. We're going to go to, wrong level there. I'm just going to add this around the edge really quickly. So now I have this. I could put like a ladder up to this or a series of stairs or whatever, you know? But now I've got like a huge entry door, a double wide wall with crenulations. And this is what's cool about doing a room at this level. You can start putting like towers and stuff too. Go wild with it. Put a tower here in this corner, right? Let's generate it with walls this time. My bad. We got to change those walls in a minute, but you get the idea. So there could be like a sealed tower here at this level that goes up and up with stairs and like an observation point, etc. Or you could make a round tower because you can reshape the room a little bit like this in the corners. Just something like that. I'll have to change these walls, but you get the idea. In my personal opinion, I think this is the best way to make city walls, defendable city, fort, castle walls, because it looks traditional thickness. If you want, you can utilize the negative space in between, make them like crenulated, you know, arrow slits on the side with windows, right? Because we have, let's see, I know we have arrow slits in here. Are they in the stone ones? Yes. So we have these crenulated like arrow slits, right? You can start putting these like every few feet and then have this whole corridor be a defensive corridor in the wall if you wanted to. Now, that's just one way of doing it, right? The alternative is using objects because we have these stone objects. So you can set kind of one, right? Get it at the height you want in the ground. So let's say we wanted it here and get into the ground a little bit. From here, you can copy this off of that single one, and they'll all be at that same height. Notice they're floating there. This was the kind of old way to make walls, was out of objects. So this is another way, and these stack on each other, right? So you can grab another one, stack it on top, start building them really tall, really wide, whatever. Adding in staircases to get it to different heights. So this is just kind of one way to do it. And these are offered in stone, wood, and metal. So you can kind of have some improvisational, you know, fortresses with them. That is option 2. So if you have collisions disabled, you can raise and lower one of the stones into the ground to kind of sink it. And then later on take and raise the terrain up to that level to kind of blend it so it looks like it was built into the ground at some point, or the ground kind of raised up around it as sediment built up over time. Lastly, okay, you remember when you're using this method, you have every wall type, right? And every floor type at your disposal. So you have a lot more options for how you cook this wall. Let's say you wanted to make it a wooden fortress, right? Something different, completely different aesthetic. I do wish we had more vertical paneling that was like these cabin walls, but let's just try the logs. So we could make it look like a wooden fortress, right? Instead. So a totally different vibe in like a second, right? And then lastly, remember when you're adding like ceilings or like other levels, it will always add a roof automatically. So you're going to have to erase the roof at the very top level here. Above that last floor. That way you don't accidentally still have a roof there. Yeah, and you can put in a broken panel here and there if you need to, if you're doing stone. Mix in some broken ones here and there. Some people like to use these to like have foundational levels like this for raised structures. It's fun to do this kind of stuff. Anyway, I hope that answered your question in a way that was satisfactory. And you were almost there. You were like there to doing this yourself. You were like following the right path, but now you know kind of like where the end result is supposed to be. Does that make sense? Yeah, Magic. A lot of people, feel like Dungeon Alchemist is like The Sims. Um, it's like Sims meets Baldur's Gate, but very casual, cathartic. A lot of people just build maps in Dungeon Alchemist and don't even run a campaign. They just enjoy building maps in it like you would in The Sims. And I think it's a lot less stressful than The Sims because you don't need to worry about keeping something alive, your sim. That being said, I honestly, I think the Sims are probably jealous of us now because we got roofing figured out. Baldur's Sims 4. So Dungeon Alchemist currently in the terrain tools, you have, shaping tools, you have terrain brushes that are specific to each biome. So when you're in a different biome, you have different brushes. And then you have liquid shaping tools. So you could like carve in a river or a pond or a lake. You can actually generate environments with those things too. In the future though, we have 2 major updates planned to improve upon this. One is called High Seas, which will feature more, sea-based content and a ship builder, including, water and hopefully astral and air-based ships as well. And then on top of that, we have an update called Water Worlds planned. These updates will be available, between now and then after we leave early access. We'll continue offering free updates until we've provided all the, promises from our Kickstarter. So we have a whole series of updates on our roadmap that are, planned, in the interim and then in the far future. But Water Worlds will add things like waterfalls, water effects, maybe like whirlpools or, different things like that. Currents. I will say this. Our next major update, Fun with Objects Part 2, should launch before the end of the summer. And then after that, the most immediate major update is called High Seas, which is a water-based one and the ship builder one. So we definitely have some water-based stuff on the horizon. And if you, need something in the interim, like a waterfall, our community supplements with the workshop, the Steam workshop. So type in waterfall. There are literally a dozen or so waterfall features. Here we have a chocolate waterfall, a lava waterfall, some ice, and these are animated waterfalls here that are looping. So you have one that's like the crashing water or like a water stream. So essentially some options available to choose from to emulate it to a degree. And many in our community have done so with great success. I will say this, we don't really have a waterfall, so they beat us there. The only thing we have is the workshop, which anyone can import a waterfall. So we have our asset importer, right? So if you have the ability to craft or source a 3D model, whether it be an animated or a still 3D model, it can be an STL, FBX, or GLTF/GLB model. You can then import it for your own local use or share it on the workshop for others to use. So like, I needed this roof for a build. I was making an observatory, a wizard's observatory, and I wanted it to be kind of like a ramshackle conical roof with a hole in it for a telescope to stick out. And this Mrs. Mac, she's really handy with 3D modeling, so I kind of told her what I was after, and she made it. So we've got like a weather vane on the top with some wiring attached that runs down on the inside. You can kind of see it here. And then what I did is we have like a electrical toggle. I put it right next to it. So it's like, I'm gathering the power, and put some like electrical batteries near it. So there's like arcing and stuff. And I feel like that's kind of the way he powers the electrical, like the components to move the telescope. Anyway. This is just a simple example of how you can import stuff. Additionally, you can import, tokens, right? So tokens are a great way to expand your token collection within Dungeon Alchemist or add NPCs or a little bit more life to your builds. So when you import a 3D model, you can choose what template it is. Is it a basic object? Is it a floating object? Does it snap to the grid? Does it create a hole? Does it snap to the sides like a wall? Does it go upward like a stair? Is it wall mounted? You set the property for it, but one of them is token. So you could set it as a token. That means it appears in the token menu, and it has the same properties as a token. So you can use it to walk around in first person. But you can make or source custom tokens and then import them. So let's say you support a creator on Patreon that gives you a bunch of tokens. Import them into DA. Was there any questions that I missed, Atlam, when I was explaining these concepts? I know I went a little bit long there on that explanation, but I just wanted to make sure the concept was well understood from several different approaches. Yes, Magic it is. So if you download a map from the workshop, you can make edits to it. Keep in mind, some older maps. So Dungeon Alchemist didn't always support multi-level and roofing. That's a relatively new feature added in the last year. In fact, this last July, so less than a year. So if you download a map from the workshop and it has a lock on this widget here, that means it's a legacy map that does not support multi-level features. But that's the only thing it doesn't support. Otherwise, any other objects or features that have been added, like these abstract invisible lights, these allow you to add light sources to the map that when you export, they're actually invisible, but the light it casts still remains. So you can add mysterious light sources or add extra light to rooms if the basic lights aren't cutting it, etc. Also, you can collaborate on maps. Anyone who owns a copy of Dungeon Alchemist, you can essentially take the map you're working on, save it, send them the .dam file, the DAM file. They can work on it and send it back to you. So it's like a game of hot potato. There's not collaborative in that you can work on it simultaneously, like multiplayer, but you can work on it and pass it on like a group project, a game of hot potato, or what we call hot DAM. So you work on it, pass it to them, they work on it, pass it back to you, and so on. And of course, like I said, you can download any map from the workshop of the, almost 14,000 and make changes if you need to. So if it's cool, you like it, it's a good foundation, but you need to make some adjustments for your own world or homebrew or storytelling needs, of course. It's very versatile in that regard. And our community has just loaded up the workshop with maps for the last 3 years. And there's like probably 10 to 20 maps added a day and about as many objects. It's getting kind of crazy how many are getting uploaded per day. Now, to the extent you were talking about, what was that feature that Tailspire has? The slabs, is that what it is? So it's like a whole bunch of objects that are pre-configured, and then you just grab that and set it, right? Instead of necessarily a whole pre-designed map. So maybe it's like a pre-designed ship with all the objects and layers and everything, and then you can import it. So that's something we're working on to a degree, but it would be around objects. It's called variant creation. So we have some objects that are pre-configured in Dungeon Alchemist. So a lot of them people notice and use all the time, but they don't even realize what they do. So like this desk, for instance. Notice this is a different configuration than the one in the image. Before I place this or finalize its location, if I press tab, it shuffles between a bunch of pre-configured, what we call internally variants. We want to eventually give our community the ability to create variants, i.e. save groupings of objects together, and then potentially even share that grouping of objects on the workshop. So you can download that pre-configured variant and then just place it in your map anywhere, or copy paste it all over the map, or move it from map to map really easily. Now that said, I don't know when this will be incorporated. I haven't even seen it worked on. I just know it's something the devs want to do eventually. There is a multi-object select feature they're also working on in the background that also might help attribute to that or help speed up that development. So you can at least lasso a group of objects and move them as a group. We're still in early access, actually. So Dungeon Alchemist won't leave early access until like the end of the year, roughly. And once we do, we'll have a lot of our core functionality all knocked out, but there's still going to be things we add and improve upon and expand. And then once we have delivered on all our stretch goals, we plan to, from our Kickstarter, that remain, we plan to continue offering fixes, patches, and even optional expansions. So people want to use Dungeon Alchemist to make like sci-fi maps or cyberpunk maps or, whatever, horror, modern, all sorts of aesthetics. So we plan to offer optional expansions to keep, our community going, depending on the system they use. And there's also discussion of making a standalone like virtual tabletop or VTT Lite that would work with Dungeon Alchemist and essentially give you a tool to run your maps more seamlessly. Who knows what that will entail or when it will release? All I know is it's something the devs are keen on doing. Ah, that's interesting. So they kind of stitch together, if you will. That's very cool. I got to download and check that out sometime. I've heard, pretty good things about it, and it's always nice to learn like what other companies are doing. I don't really see other map making companies as competitive, as more complementary, because there really isn't one company that does it all yet. You know what I mean? There's some that are better for world maps. There's some that are better for regional, and some are better for, a certain aesthetics. Some are 3D, leaning, and some are like 3D design. So you have all the camera angles, but then you nail that like really lived in aesthetic, right? That's what Dungeon Alchemist is going for, but also speedy maps. I don't know if you noticed, I've generated a few maps while you were watching, environments. You can generate, forests and hellscapes and deserts and all sorts of environments, jungles in a snap, and then put rooms on them just as quick. So that's really where Dungeon Alchemist shines, is in saving you time, or rolling up your sleeves and building maps that are so intricately detailed that they're incredibly custom. You know what I mean? So I think that's where a lot of people start with Dungeon Alchemist, is they're like, man, I want a map maker that's quick, because session prep, it really shouldn't be stressful and take up like a whole full-time job, right? Unless you're DMing for money, I mean, it probably shouldn't be taking you 40 hours a week. Unless, you just absolutely love it. But sometimes, like, if you have family, friends, multiple work obligations, maybe religious obligations, hobbies, it starts to get hard to have that much session prep. So Dungeon Alchemist was originally conceived as like, hey, don't feel guilty, Anani. Honestly, dude, you are really good at map making, okay? And you found a passion in it. Dungeon Alchemist was designed to save time, but there's still plenty of people in our community who do the opposite and have lost plenty of time and hours over it because they enjoy the tools, intricacies, and the ability to detail maps from top to bottom. Hey, Magic, pick a biome from this list other than dark parchment and green screen, because those are non-terrain. So pick anything between Badlands and snow. And by the way, we're always adding new biomes all the time. We already generated forests, so I'd love to show you any of the other ones if you'd like to see them. Not to put you on the spot there, Magic, but I wanted to give you an idea. Honestly, that's the thing, Anani, and I'm not trying to take away from those who spend a lot of time session prepping. I mean, my professional DM is session prepping right now, watching, and he probably spends about just as much time, like 40-ish hours a week prepping, because he runs multiple sessions. I know Dyson does a lot of session prep as well. She runs multiple sessions. And even people running a singular session, especially if you're playing like weekly, it's very easy to put, 40 to 100 hours a month in session prep. So I'm not detracting from that. I just said Dungeon Alchemist was designed to speed things up if you want to spend more time playing and enjoying time with your players instead of focusing on details that they may glide over, Magic's gone quiet all of a sudden, so I'm going to pick a biome for them. Let's generate a cave system. And we're going to generate a labyrinth. I put you on the spot, right? Oh, you were talking. You know what? Don't worry. I get it. You don't want to get in trouble. Here, I'll let you pick. Pick a biome. I said I want to generate a map for you out of any of the environmental biomes so you can kind of get an idea. Arctic, so snow. Okay, so snow, there's different elevations and whatnot to pick from. So you can generate like an ice cave system, or you have a flat environment, hills, mountains, ravines, etc. Let's generate a ravine. And then you can set it to have any level of vegetation you want. So no vegetation can have like a forest or evergreen forests or clearings, meadows, steppe, dense growth. Evergreen clearing, I think, goes pretty good with the Arctic environment. But you could, pick and choose any you want just to get an idea. So essentially, you kind of guide our procedural map generation engine, right? Tell it all the things you want. So let's add a river to this. And then we're going to say no weather, so there's not like a pasting of snow on top of everything, just like the ground snow. So we're going to generate this and see what it looks like. Donut Love, thank you for the follow. Much appreciated. Also, in the last 10 minutes, we've had a few likes on Facebook. Wim, our lead designer, dropped us a like on Facebook. And Charlene, I think that's Chim, dropped us a like as well on Facebook. Thank you, Chim. So here we just generated a kind of frozen environment. The river, as you can see, is ice. Though if I wanted to, let's say I wanted it to be lava, I could do that. Or I could have it be water. Really easy to change. Now, let's say I wanted to add more snow. You could add like a coating of snow to all the environment. So every object, every tree, everything is covered. Or you could just have the ground be snow. It's funny you say that because during Halloween, I had one of my costumes on stream was Bob Ross. So I would place some happy little trees. Here we're going to put just a little spattering of nature. Hey, Fox, welcome back. Donut, excited to join. I use DA for your Pathfinder and D&D games. That's awesome. I'm glad to hear it. How long you been using Dungeon Alchemist? Quick reminder, everyone, the Dam Challenge, you're running out of time to enter the current Dam Challenge. And for those that are new here and wondering what that is, for the marquee going across the bottom of the screen, the Dam Challenge is our ongoing map making contest. We host it bi-weekly, so every 2 weeks, not the twice a month one. No, that's still twice a month. Never mind. Bi-weekly. No, not twice a week. Every 2 weeks. It's confusing sometimes, right? Anyway, so our current theme is overgrown. You use overgrown as inspiration. You make a map of any shape or size, and you submit that in our Discord to the Dam Challenge channel. In the Dam Challenge channel, there are some rules pinned at the top that must be adhered to for your submission to count. Once you've submitted your map, as long as it's done before the deadline, you have a chance to be the Dam Challenge winner, which if you're the winner, you get a $10 Hero Forge gift card. Your map is the first map featured on the stream's Dam Challenge segment, which is every other Saturday. We have the Dam Challenge segment where we showcase the map entries. And also your map is featured in our bi-weekly newsletter, or our weekly newsletter called the Cartomancer Chronicles. So our last winner, Lalandra Blue with her Sky Prison, was featured here. Gets a lot of eyes on your work and essentially allows you to kind of flex your map maker muscle on the cartographer community. The deadline for entries is end of day, Friday the 6th in your time zone. So you have to submit your entry in our Discord and follow the pinned rules in the Damn Challenge channel by end of day, Friday the 6th. So 11:59 p.m. in your time zone. Or I guess 23:59 if you're, on a 24-hour clock. Ascetic Hound, thank you for the follow. Welcome, welcome. Nice. Are you running a separate VTT software, or are you running your game in Dungeon Alchemist directly? What did you see on Steam, Fox? Nice. So yeah, there is a small subset of our community who uses Dungeon Alchemist exclusively to run their games, because we have a grid you can superimpose, you can hide the user interface. These were features like this one particularly I begged for the devs to add. And if you have like a projector tabletop or a TV tabletop, you can then cast this image and your players can just use this as a live map. Many in our community use virtual tabletops like Roll20, Fantasy Grounds, Foundry, Above VTT, etc., which offer things like fog of war, lighting, line of sight, etc. So it's a little bit more intricate, but for those that play in person, usually your players see the whole map unless you cover areas or reveal it slowly. So like we had a guest on stream, one of our moderators, Remy. She runs a game through a TV tabletop, and she just puts a black sheet over parts of the map, like a black flat sheet to cover parts of the map that is her fog of war. I've seen DMs that will actually take construction paper and draw shingles on it and cut out roofs and put them over things, and then they'll pull the roof back when they go inside and stuff like that. So it's pretty neat. People come up with really creative solutions when they're playing in person. I would love to see a picture of your setup sometime, Donut. Hey, my game for... Oh, there. Thought DA had frozen for a moment. It was just taking a minute. By the way, our next stream is this upcoming Saturday. It is the Dungeon Alchemist map-making show. We host that every Saturday. And that is a multi-stream hosted on our Twitch, Facebook, Steam, YouTube, etc. During that stream, we every other week we either have an interview with a dev or a community member or a moderator, or we have the Damn Challenge, which we discussed a few minutes ago, our bi-weekly map making contest. In addition to that, we do Q&A during the stream. So if you have support inquiries, or you're new to Dungeon Alchemist, or maybe you're really experienced and struggling to find something specific, or you're wondering how they built something on the workshop, you can ask me and I will give you some time on the stream and showcase how to do so. Additionally, we showcase maps from the workshop and assets from the workshop, and provide valuable tips and trick teach outs, showcasing various features and things you may not understand about Dungeon Alchemist or how to do. So essentially, these streams are a great resource. If you can tune into any of them, whether it's on Monday or Saturday, you will learn a lot. And then another great resource is our Discord. Our Discord is a 24-hour resource where our community members, moderators, and the dev team answer questions for you and provide assistance. We have support and question forums. We have places to hang out with like-minded DMs, GMs, and pick their brains. I mean, collaboratively, there's thousands of years, millennia of experience in game mastering in our Discord, with over 35,000 members. So it's a great place to bounce ideas off of people for homebrew or, encounters or anything really. People are always in GM chat talking. Oh, nice. You joined? Very cool. By the way, this isn't just a pitch to you, Magic. I'm talking to everyone here. We got, across all our platforms, over 50, 60 people watching. So I really just to let everyone know. But I do appreciate that you've shown so much interest today, and I love to you know, answer questions for new community members to make sure they understand what they're getting into. Let's see here. I'm really happy with the progress so far, but I want to add some more stuff. I think I'm going to put these tent pegs just kind of like in one of these shelves. I'll put them over here with the mining equipment. What other things can I put on these shelves? So I got water bladders. Let's move the lamps down. Put a canteen here so you can kind of see it sticking through the side. Got some smaller canteens. Another water bladder here. We'll make it smaller. Oh, I got to disable collisions. By the way, everyone, this toggle right here is like the most OP feature in Dungeon Alchemist. Basically, when you disable collisions, you enable the fun. The community had to beg the devs for this feature because originally they didn't really want to give this functionality because they were worried about how it might artistically like degrade Dungeon Alchemist performance and looks. But after, you know, a lot of begging and workarounds, we ended up getting a feature that allows you to essentially disable the object's colliders. So every object in Dungeon Alchemist has sort of an invisible box around it that tells Dungeon Alchemist roughly its size and shape. Usually they're a simple shape like a cube or like a cylinder. But it's an invisible box that tells Dungeon Alchemist how it interacts with other objects and its size. The colliders toggle, the collision toggle, when it's disabled, now that collider is no longer inhibited by other objects. So normally you wouldn't be able to put this object by other objects. It'll give you this red kind of thing saying no. And some objects are stingier than others, so it makes it very hard. So you can disable collisions and start kit bashing, exactly. But not only does it disable collisions, it unlocks two other features, okay, that I wish there was 3 toggles so you knew, or it told you everything, or like a hover told you everything it did, like a tooltip. But when you disable collisions, notice this arrow appears right here. So you can raise and lower objects on the Z-axis. And when collisions are disabled, objects can be scaled far beyond their normal restrictions. So like right here, it's saying I can't make it any larger because of stuff around it. When collisions are off, I can make things super sized, giant sized if I wanted to, or microscopic. So essentially it allows you to work around those limitations. Okay, I'm going to put some more lamps in here. Lantern. Just going to go to the lights and look at them all at once. Yeah, we turned those off. I remember that. I guess we could put some of these like clay pot lanterns. I'm gonna turn this one off, and we'll duplicate that. Oh, we can change the candle color. Let's make this candle turquoise, teal, or whatever that is. Yeah, I should have filled these shelves as I placed them instead of doing this, because now it's like super hard to get objects at these angles. Another great benefit of 3D building is that you can do stuff like this. You know, that's another reason we host these streams, is to give inspiration and creativity boosts for our community. To be honest with you, like, I understand getting in that zone where you like are lacking creativity and it's hard to like find the motivation to build something. It's always so nice to see someone else doing it, or see, you know, a whole community of people sharing maps and be like, wow, yeah, I can do this. Someone else did this, I can do it. Me, I also get motivated by people telling me I can't do something for some reason. So there's that. Ooh, I think I need to put some candles on this level too. Just like regular old candles, not just lamps, right? Ooh, we can even do some of these, I guess, like oil lamps. Honestly, a lot of these details are wasted on a top-down export. I just like putting detail into the maps for our community that I share. Like, it's just fun for me to build super detailed maps like this. I really enjoy it. It's like, I don't know, I get a lot of catharsis and satisfaction in building maps. I've been this way as long as I've been experiencing map making tools in games. Like, I remember there was like a Far Cry game I played years ago, and it had a map builder in it for building multiplayer maps. And I swear I spent more time building maps than I did playing the game. And then Halo had like the Forge mode, spent a ton of time doing that. No, it's a hidden gene too. I do think some people really enjoy building maps more than others. To some, it's like probably the most boring experience you could have, right? And others, it's like, this is super fun. I think some people just have the DM gene. You know what I mean? Here, buy some pre-melted candles. Ah! Hmm. What is my... Oh, that was the light I was changing. I was like, why isn't this changing color at all? There's a seagull in my shop. Why would there be a seagull in the middle of the desert? You're funny, Jack. That is kind of hilarious, though. But look what I do have in the rafters here. Little barn owl. Maybe that's what you heard chirping. So one thing about our streams is we like to provide a space that's like a third space. And if you're not familiar with what a third space is, it's probably because they're disappearing at an alarming rate. Third spaces are like free public spaces where you have no expectation of like spending money to be there, like a library or a park. Places where you could just have a sit and chillax or spend time with your family, you know, have a picnic or anything, right? But Dungeon Alchemist streams, I consider them a third space for people to come in and learn about map making, but not only map making, but session prep, you know, learn about GMing and DMing as a whole, and, you know, learn from each other and honestly just have a place to be with a group and a community. Our community is so wholesome, loves supporting each other, helping each other out, coming up with new ideas, making custom objects for each other. Like, we have such an amazing community. Uncle Rico. Back in '89, could you throw a pigskin a quarter mile? First off, I gotta respond to your question with a question. But Uncle Rico over on YouTube asks, so is DA going to work on better integration with VTTs like Foundry? Unless you import an image, just an image, which has none of the lighting or animations, seems like a pointless to export maps from DA. So first off, I want to just educate you a little bit. I think you're mistaken there. So Dungeon Alchemist maps do export with lighting. They export with walls, windows, and doors for Foundry. So it automatically partitions your map for line of sight and fog of war. Additionally, if you export the map with the lighting present and you have lighting in your map, yes, it does export with that. If you export and it's not showing your lighting, that might be based on how your settings are for lighting. So we have an option to not render the lights and export them, so just only render the lights in the image, or export the lighting to the VTT only. Or you can render lights and export it. Now, traditional tabletop games, D&D, Pathfinder, they've been played in a top-down aesthetic and mode for maps, or theater of the mind, essentially, as long as people can remember. Those are the main game modes, right? So Dungeon Alchemist was designed with that in mind. We designed our tool to export in a top-down, which we offer either a flattened or a 3D aesthetic, okay? Now, Foundry doesn't offer any 3D, as far as I'm aware, as a stock feature. It would be offered via module only and behind a paywall. So it's not a stock feature they offered to do 3D maps at all. So that's not something we're gonna even look into do. And it's not something we're planned to offer, if that's kind of what you were looking for. But I will say, I'm assuming you're talking about levels and taking advantage of levels within, say, Foundry, right? Levels is a rather new feature to Foundry. In fact, they launched it after we launched multi-level for Dungeon Alchemist. So we always kind of have to play catch up with them. They don't collaborate with us and tell us their development plans and share all their code so we can work around it. We have to be reactionary and wait until they develop something, and then we work a feature around it. So when we made multi-level and the exports for it, we designed it to be as as universal to any VTT out there. So every VTT uses scenes. We opted to allow our multi-level exports to export each level as a separate scene. That way you can load them into your virtual tabletop and transition from scene to scene when your players do go to those areas. I understand that it may not be the ideal method on Foundry at the moment due to levels, because each scene being a separate image that is a solid image makes it a little bit troublesome to see the floors below. Unfortunately, we don't offer exports that seamlessly work with with levels in Foundry, just simply because the feature is brand spanking new as a stock feature. Prior to just a few months ago, it was only through a module. Let's see here. So did that answer your question there at all? I hope it kind of covered what you were looking for when it comes to Uncle Rico. So now Dungeon Alchemist also exports animated maps. I don't know if you're familiar with that. So if you use Foundry, you can export your map not only as an image, but as an animated map. So you can export a video, whether it's an MP4 or a WebM, so you can have looped animations. So like if you have water or trees, they'll move. If you have animated objects in your maps, lighting, etc., fire, all of that will move. Effects. And many objects that do animate are looped seamlessly through this in 30-second loops. That said, animated maps, we support that for Foundry. We support that for Fantasy Grounds and TV and projector tabletops. I understand the concern around, say, full 3D, but that's really something we never really planned to offer or even promised to offer when we just started out to develop Dungeon Alchemist. We wanted to develop a map-making tool that's really quick, but also really intricate and is good for top-down tabletop gameplay. That being said, I know like a lot of these details I'm putting into this store probably would be useless in top-down, right? in a top-down export unless you have some 3D perspective. That's why I use the camera tools in Dungeon Alchemist to go into my maps after I've designed them to get screenshots. And I use them as like handouts. Or I'll record video in these modes to give my players, so once they've gone into this, they have like a little tour. Or I'll stream a first-person perspective to them over Discord or something so they can see through their own eyes in that mode and say, hey, can you look to the left? What's over on the left wall? And then I'll look there while they're in top-down following along. So I hope I addressed that question top to bottom there. I think I did. Rico, if you're still there, hopefully that addresses your concerns. So there's more ways to use Dungeon Alchemist maps than just a top-down export and just an image. You obviously have animated maps. You have different perspectives that you can capture of your maps to give your players handouts and videos for like chase scenes, flyovers for their familiars, cut scenes when you walk into a tavern for the first time, maybe a place burning down from the outside, things like that. You can do that top to bottom and really enjoy it with these features. A full 3D gameplay experience, though, was something Dungeon Alchemist will probably never offer, mainly because it was never designed for that, and it would require essentially being gutted from from bottom up to accommodate. Let's see. Will DA incorporate architecture such as Japanese feudal era designs? If we do, it won't be in our stock offerings of Dungeon Alchemist. It'll likely be an expansion. The reason being is primarily right now we're focused on a fantasy aesthetic within like Pathfinder and D&D. I do understand, there are some fantasy-based stuff with feudal designs or using cultural designs for different regions. Dungeon Alchemist tries to stray away from cultural designs for a couple of reasons. One, it's difficult to do with an indie team effectively and respectively in a way that it properly represents the aesthetic and it guarantees to not, be offensive. In the past, we tried to do a more of a desert aesthetic with a fantasy theme, and immediately we got a lot of pushback from it when it was released based on the naming convention of some of the objects. And that was the first time I'd actually dealt with a major amount of pushback from our community from that perspective. So we had to adjust and pivot. And since then, we've kind of opted to stray away from cultural assets wherever possible. So remember, we're focusing on a strictly fantasy aesthetic. That said, if you go into the asset browser, our community has supplemented that quite a bit. In fact, there is a collection with Japanese kind of feudal assets in it, a bunch of them that have been uploaded to the workshop. Let's see, I know it's in here. But a collection is a group of assets that you can just download all at once. I probably already, here it is. So this is like a whole bunch of feudal and kind of like that aesthetic, right? So you could download this asset pack, which is over 6 gigs, by the way, but it's 329 assets to supplement that aesthetic. So it will help tremendously, and you can mix and match with Dungeon Alchemist to get that. There are people in our community who have generated maps to a great design with that, and I'm not done telling you answers yet, Johnny. Anani, one of our chatters here, Anani had made a map a few months ago for our Dam Challenge that had an amazing feudal Japan aesthetic. What was that map called, Anani? It was like the it was the one with the suspended bridge and the sanctuary, right? Anyway, now, Johnny, in the future, it's possible we may, after we've left early access and have delivered on all our Kickstarter promises and have a little bit more time, where we may approach, say, hiring cultural advisors and digging into different cultural assets. For the time being, though, we've given our community the workshop to share assets and the asset importer to import custom assets. So if you have the ability to source these assets in that aesthetic or make them yourself, You can import them directly into Dungeon Alchemist and share them with the community, or just use them in your local collection. So the Zen Garden Resort. Let me save and just show you what's possible with just between the combination of stock assets and assets from the workshop. Yeah, this thing is very beautiful, and it's a great example. I don't know if Rico stuck around for the answer. I don't know if he said anything after. Oh, there he did. Yes. Perfect. I'm glad it answered. Honestly, your message just came through right as I said that. Fantastic. Going to take a moment to download these assets. So when you download a workshop map, if it has any assets in it that are from the workshop, it'll prompt you to download them, which you can deselect them all and not download it, but the map will be very bare otherwise. But this is a great way to get a jump start on assets of that aesthetic. You find a map with that design, download it, get a bunch of assets. But this is a perfect example of how you can already build maps like this within Dungeon Alchemist using the tools available. That being said, I think when we have more, resources, maybe we can bring in cultural advisors and do maybe asset packs or expansions that dig into that. That being said, it probably would be after we left early access, delivered on all our remaining stretch goals, and probably released a few expansions first. So it'll be a while, if anything. Anani, straight to jail. Believe it or not, dad jokes, straight to jail. I'm just kidding, Anani. By the way, I just got to say, quick little shameless bagging and promotion. If you are enjoying the stream today, could you please do me a favor and hit that follow or subscribe or like or share button, whatever it is on your platform. And also, just let us know if you're enjoying the stream in chat or via social media or Discord after the fact. We love getting feedback on the streams, what you liked, what you didn't like, if you'll be joining us in the future. The streams, we try to make a space that's open for all. It's inviting, accepting, and for new DMs, old DMs, young, family-friendly environment. So we just really want to make everyone feel welcome here and also learn, a space to learn about Dungeon Alchemist, but also tabletop gaming as a whole. I love tabletop gaming, and I feel like I learned so much from our community every stream. Totally willing to wait. The workshop is really slow today. I asked the devs about this, if there's a way to speed it up. I do think when you're downloading from the workshop, most mods you download are rather small, right? They're only like a handful of megabytes. Some of them get larger. Hey, Johnny, thank you for that. Johnny Nod, thank you for the follow. Much appreciated. But when you download like a map from Dungeon Alchemist and it has like a half a gig of assets or a gigabyte of assets, and it's not in a zipped pack, they're all individual downloads, right? So whether it's a half a megabyte or 100 megabytes for the asset, it has to download and verify it individually. So each download initializes, downloads, verifies, and stops. It takes forever sometimes. Whereas when you download like a mod on Steam Workshop, it's all zipped together in a single thing. So you download one file. So I think that's part of the problem, but I also think Steam has like a token system that if you're not actively like looking at that window or clicking on it, it'll like freeze and stop downloading. So if I go click on another window, it stops downloading. It's frustrating. So we got to get around that. We got to fix that. Oh, totally willing to wait till after early access. I thought you were totally willing to wait to see this map. Either way, it's cool. You should wait. Can I just say this stream has been one of the most comfortable streams I've had in a while, simply because the new air conditioning unit in my office has kept it so comfortable and like chill in here. There is no heat in here. My computers feel cool to the touch. Usually I'm like sweating and it's like humid in here because there's so much heat from my 2 PCs, all these screens and lights. It's nuts in here. My streaming PC especially gets rather hot because the 5090 in it. It's a beast. Let's just say Half-Life 3 will release first. I'm just kidding. Oh, what are the questions? Sorry, did I miss them? Can you drop them back here in chat so I can see? I'm not sure where they are in the chat feed. The map is finally loading. Of how I would put together a video for my players? What kind of video did you want to see? Like, actually, let me give you an example of one that I think would be cool. I like doing flyover videos. So when I was DMing, there was a player in the group who has a familiar. And I actually learned this trick from a DM in our community. They have a player who has a familiar that flies, and they constantly will fly over areas, right? And do the vision, you know, shared vision, and see through their familiar's eyes to kind of scope out things and spy around, you know? So first off, magic. You've got the recording tools, which you would, you know, turn on the tool, get in the angle you want to be, right? Learn the camera, which there is a tutorial to learn the camera here in our help section. You have this cinematic mode. You can see the controls. Just kind of basic guide, I guess, not so much a tutorial. And then the first person mode as well, so the controls for those. But then get kind of set up in your camera mode. Me personally, I like to make sure I cut off this kind of black end of the map area, and I'll get like right at the edge. And then let's say I wanted to do a familiar flyover. In this case, I would just move forward. Oops, wrong key. Forward across the map while it's recording, right? And then, you know, you would, familiar has a range of what, like 100 feet you could be away from it before you lose the connection, right? So you could kind of get to a point where like that's the cutoff, and then just clip the video there while you're recording. But yeah, this map is brilliant. Sorry, Johnny, I know you were waiting to see it. We got this lovely like koi kind of river pond with the suspended bridge. Then you come in here, the entrance to the sanctuary. What was the other question? How do they get back out? I mean, you know, D&D is a game of problem solving. Your players will probably have to solve a solution to get out. More often than not, you know, depending on the pit size, you know, flight, levitation, some kind of magic solution or a physical solution. One time there was a bunch of Gith Yankee that were in a pit, and we used a block and tackle and a bunch of rope to raise them out one at a time. Because I had a steel defender and he had a block and tackle in his chest, like a winch. And so he would we'd just lower the rope down and he like winched them up one at a time. Another time, a player in my party can fly, so they would probably just fly down and grab them. Magical solutions, dimension door, you know, things like that are a good idea. Flight. It really depends on how deep the hole is and what level the party is. Sometimes, you know, also fall damage is pretty intense depending on how far they fell. Could be an instance where they died. But But yeah, looking in this just beautiful map, my favorite part of this map is this little Zen garden here with the koi pond around it. But this is just a great example of like what is possible in Dungeon Alchemist. Like I wouldn't expect someone who's had Dungeon Alchemist for like a day to be able to make maps like this. I'll be honest. This takes a little bit of practice, right? Just like all skills and all tools, they take a bit of practice to perfect and understand. Dungeon Alchemist is very intuitive and easy to use, but some aspects just take a little bit of time to get used to. This map features a lot of objects placed by hand, okay? But it does also use the room generation tool and our roofing tool. So this is a stock Dungeon Alchemist roof, which actually, you know, fits that aesthetic rather well because it's a, what do they call these? That stone type. Slate. So slate is used the world over for shingling. Mossy slate shingles. I love the little sheds and the gardens. It's such a beautiful map, Inani. Really. Love just that we're back in it, taking a look at it. Okay, so does the equipment, do they have any rope? First off. And remember, climbing is a thing you can do in D&D. They just have to do checks. So characters can climb, even without a climbing speed. They just have saves. So they risk falling. They have to do acrobatics or strength checks. If I'm not mistaken, anybody can climb without a climbing speed. It's just your climbing speed is reduced and you have to do checks. If you have a climbing speed, it's different than that. So I mean, they could just potentially climb out as an option. So physical is a great option. Working as a team to get the person out, though, if only one person fell, there really should be some collaboration, right? If they can hear each other and communicate, people up at the top should be going through their equipment, seeing what they can to help the person at the bottom. The person at the bottom should be assessing their personal skills and inventory as well. So how do we, you know, make sure they're okay? How do we get them out? Just like any survival situation, assess the equipment you have and go from there. If your players aren't doing that on their own, I would worry about them. You know, not every group's going to have a magical solution, but like a lot of characters have basic adventuring gear that they never use. Climbing gear, pittons, rope, you know, poles. Alrighty. I hate to say it, but unfortunately it's time to wrap up the stream, but dang, did we wrap it up on a beautiful note. Just look at this view. Look at that view. That'd be a lovely screensaver. All right, everyone. It is unfortunately time to wrap up the stream. I had so much fun hanging out with y'all. A lot of new people came in today, and I just want to say thank you for dropping in. Thank you for the follows, for the subs, for the likes, for the shares, for all the new faces coming in, for all your questions. And remember, whether it's your first stream or your 100th stream, whether you're actively chatting or you were lurking the whole time, I appreciate each and every one of you. Big shout out to the mods that were helping out today. Atlam, you were on fire, and I know we had Asmodeus and Remy lurking in the background. Thank you, all of you, for being here. And remember, just a couple quick bits of information. The Dam Challenge current theme is overgrown. Your map submissions must be submitted by the end of day on the 6th. So before 11:59 p.m., it must be submitted to the Dam Challenge channel in our Discord, and the rules pinned at the top of the channel must be adhered to for your submission to apply. That's for a chance to win a $10 Hero Forge gift card, have your map featured first in the Dam Challenge segment, and your map featured in our weekly Cartomancer Chronicles newsletter in Dungeon Alchemist. So, if you're interested in participating, make sure that your maps are finalized and submitted before the deadline. Remember, the deadline is 11:59 or 23:59 in your time zone. So 11:59 p.m. In your time zone, so that way you can submit before the end of your day. Lastly, this coming Saturday stream is where we'll be featuring the Damn Challenge maps. As well as we'll host Q&A, map workshops, showcases for maps and assets, and additionally feature showcases so you can learn tips and tricks about the intricacies of Dungeon Alchemist and how you can use those tools to your advantage to make the maps that you are wanting for your campaigns. Lastly, small little request: if you enjoyed the stream and if you haven't already, please hit the follow or subscribe button. And if you see the stream pop up on your social media feeds, whether it's already live, whether it's already happened, or it's in the future, please share those posts. Like, share, retweet, whatever. That way more people can learn about our streams and come check them out. Let's see here. That stream this Saturday is at 12 p.m. Pacific, the Dungeon Alchemist map-making show. And that's 3 p.m. Eastern and 8 p.m. UTC. Sorry, I have to think about that. Is that 20? Right? Anyway, thank you everyone for being here. Again, my name is Mac, the community manager for Dungeon Alchemist. Dungeon Alchemist is the map-making tool you see in front of you. It is available on Steam for purchase. We are in early access and in constant development and offer constant support, as you can see. Additionally, we offer a free demo so you can try Dungeon Alchemist out before you buy, give it a little test drive on your computer to make sure it runs with your specs or to your satisfaction before you invest time and money in it. Lastly, I'm going to run a quick little Dungeon Alchemist themed ad before we wrap up the stream. It will not be a third-party ad. It will be our own exclusive ad, and it's quite funny, so I hope you enjoy it. We'll see you later. Is March 8th daylight savings? Darn. Thank you for the reminder. We'll have to make some changes for sure. So the times are off, I guess, because of daylight savings. My bad. Yep, we're going to have to deal with time shifting again. I hope someday they get rid of that. Daylight savings, I think, is the biggest waste of time, especially now in the digital age where everything automatically adjusts. Very few clocks need to be adjusted by hand. And it really was originally, I thought, adjusted for helping farmers get more work hours. Anyway, we'd rather move on from that and just like have a normal day, because it'll just balance itself out all year eventually. Or maybe like 1 clock reset every 5 years or something when we need to. I don't know. It just seems like if you're going back and forth all year, it really doesn't matter that much. I'd just rather not deal with it. Either way, thank you everyone for being here. We're going to run that Dungeon Alchemist themed ad and we're going to wrap up the stream. Back out. Bye. Bye. We're going to run the wobbling ad today.
You stand before the long, dark road to the fabled realm of Goyak-Ta, and before...
What do we see?
I don't know, a goblin.
I kill him.
But before she does, I, Gilliam of Firth, demand to know the goblin's name.
Hi, my name is Woblin.
Where do you live there, Woblin?
I don't think that's relevant.
Well, but I, Gilliam of Firth, demand to seek the goblin's abode.
Clever, find family, kill entire bloodline. I like it.
Seriously, we're doing this? Okay, well, won't be needing that anymore, will I?
Ever get caught by your players with your pants down? Dungeon Alchemist lets you create wonderful maps for any encounter in seconds.
Oh, Woblin, that's a very impressive cheese collection you've got there.
Yeah, it is quite impressive, yes. But you know what's more impressive? This map I have to the fabled realm
Realm of Goyak-Ta, please take it and leave. Close the door behind you.
Mr. Woblin, I cannot help but notice that you have a secret tunnel underneath your cabinet. care to explain.
Download Dungeon Alchemist, the AI-powered mapmaker, on Steam today.
All right, everyone. Thank you for tuning in. Hope you have an amazing week. Ciao, Fox. See you, Nani. Magic, it was nice to meet you. We'll hopefully see you around next time. Roll Monster, thank you for being here. Atlam, thank you again for modding. You're a superstar. Appreciate you so much. Everyone have a wonderful day, afternoon, evening, good night. Back out. Bye.